Let's say that you live next door to one of the most highly regulated short-term rental markets in the country.
A friend of mine, soon to be my partner, I'll tell you about him in a bit, Ali, he mentioned that his wife is Airbnb-ing his upstairs unit as a project, and it's doing really well. And this, so I was like, let me try it. So I put it up on Airbnb as is, didn't change nothing, kept the furniture that was there, and within the month, it was covering my mortgage and of the entire house.
Learn how Islam Elgarhi grappled with that opportunity and used it to launch his portfolio of over 30 properties.
There's nothing more valuable in this world than your time, right? Where do you value your time, right? Even if you don't need the help, you can use it, right? It's better to invest in your time that you can use to think and make your product.
How do you go from managing guest bookings to developing cutting-edge AI tools for short-term rental reviews? Islam's journey is a masterclass in innovation.
I say it again, like over and over again, the best Airbnb hosts and the best property managers are the ones who clean their own house from the beginning. Like they know everything, like from the first listing. And then as they grow, you offload it. That's how every business starts, right? So
my name is Jason Muth. I'm a 30-time Airbnb super host. I worked in the media business for over 25 years, and in 2016, we bought our first short-term rental, which has turned into our chapter 2 in life. Since then, we've welcomed over 5,000 guests and their furry friends to our homes. And we're here to show you how to create a smart stay. Now, on with the show. All right, Rory, I've been looking forward to this episode for a while since this guest booked with us, and I checked out his social media, and like if we didn't invite him on, I thought he was going to come find us and beat the crap out of us, because this man is a fighter, he's a grappler, and he's from the New York area, just like I am. So, Rory, there's a degree of intimidation that we had to get him on.
Yep. And to give a clunky segue, I mean, he's also helping, short-term rental owners fight against a really specific challenge that I think is one of the toughest challenges out there. So stay tuned to hear more about that.
What an interesting way to tie that in, right? We didn't even practice that in advance. Please welcome to Smart Stay Show. This is Islam Elgarhi, and you're going to say your name in the proper way. Because we Americans don't know how to pronounce names that are like, anything from the Middle East or Islamic or have a background like you do. Yeah. So please tell us, how do you pronounce your last name, Islam?
So my name, when I tell my American friends and everything, is Islam Elgarhi, just the easiest for them and easiest for me to explain to them. Saves us both time. But traditionally in Egypt and in the Muslim world and the Arab world, it's Islam Elgarhi.
Okay. We'll stick with the New York pronunciation.
Some of my friends called me Izzy growing up, so that was easier for them.
Izzy. Wait, so yeah. You grew up in Jersey?
Yeah, I grew up in Bayonne, New Jersey. It's kind of on the border of Jersey City, and it kind of connects to New York through Staten Island Bridge. Well, the Bayonne Bridge.
We know Bayonne very well. My mother talks about the cousins from Bayonne all the time, and Yeah, I have an Italian background with my family, so you can imagine the cousins from Bayonne, what they used to get into back in the day.
Yeah. Italians built Bayonne.
They certainly did, and so you're in Egypt right now, though. So are you away for some holidays, or what brings you back there?
So I love building systems and businesses, and I built a system and business in Egypt. It was unplanned. I was here getting married 4 or 5 months ago. And I stayed here for that long that I couldn't keep my hands off of doing something. So I just decided to build an AI automation solutions company through the network that I had here. Skilled labor. I would never invest in Egypt, but I would invest in their labor. Their skilled labor is it's very good. And it's affordable compared to the States, but the currency is not the best.
Yeah, we were saying before this that we actually just brought on somebody to work with us for some social media work, and she actually lives in South Africa. But we went through an agency that has a number of employees in Egypt, and we had a great experience with all of them. I think I talked to 3 Egyptians that worked on the team, from onboarding and sales to recruiting, and they were fantastic. Some of them studied in the United States as well, and they went back to Egypt afterward. But we should say, Islam, that you're a short-term rental real estate investor and a consultant. We'll talk about the AI world. That you have such an interesting little product that I can't wait to get into on this episode. It has to do with reviews, and you've really dug deep into reviews. Rory, you know how important reviews are in our short-term rental world, right?
They can make or break your business, for real.
And it's gotten so difficult these days with Airbnb to get reviews removed for what seem to be rational reasons. But it just has become really, really, really tough over the years. But let's just start with, Islam, how did you get into the short-term rental space?
So yeah, that's a great question. So I bought my first house with my brother back during Corona. I think our rates were, I think, two and a quarter, something like that. It was around 2020 or 2021, 2020, I believe, in August. Bought my first house. It was a two-family house with a basement. My parents were going through a divorce, so I kind of wanted to keep the family together. So we finished the basement unit for my dad to live in while we stayed upstairs. It was a finished basement. It was nice, nice little cozy spot. Eventually, he moved out. When he moved out, I had this space that was doing nothing. A friend of mine, soon to be my partner, I'll tell you about him in a bit, Ali, he mentioned that his wife is Airbnb-ing his upstairs unit as a project, and it's doing really well. And this, so I was like, let me try it. So I put it up on Airbnb as is, didn't change nothing, kept the furniture that was there. And within the month, it was covering my mortgage and of the entire house. I was like, what is this? I didn't even try. Let me put some effort into this. And then I turned into the best interior designer you can think of. I was looking up every single color and the best designs and decor and all this stuff. Obviously, it was terrible, but it was a very good learning experience. And from there, I just couldn't stop talking about it. I told all my friends, and that's how I got into that's how I broke into it. And obviously, the rest is history.
You have a few properties now, right?
Yes. So in 2020, my dad lived there for about 2 to 3 years. He moved out about 2 years ago, and I started off with one listing 2 years ago, and now we're at 30 plus.
30 plus. Do you own them all? Are
Yeah.
you co-hosting? Is it arbitrage? Like, what are you doing?
It's a 50-50. So most of them we own. We started off only doing our own, but I partnered up with my friend Ali that I mentioned out. He's my partner is my brother Omar and my friend Ali Hassan. He's actually an owner and operator of a huge crypto hedge fund based out of New York. He's an entrepreneur at heart. His whole life he was. So when we teamed up, we tried to come up with a plan to scale it. And we kind of didn't really want to get into the management space at first, but it was inevitable. Bayonne, as you know, is a small knit community, and word gets around quick that something's done the right way and there's money involved. So we grew up there, we lived there our entire life, so people trusted us. We've never done anything wrong to anybody, and that's what the main driver to our growth is, just that people trust us.
Yeah. I think your story starts out pretty similar to a lot of people, maybe with different flavors, but that you kind of accidentally found this space because you had a property and you gave it a try. But then to scale it up to 30, you really have to invest in systems from deciding on the right interior design, which I believe is a system, just as you kind of mentioned earlier, to, really being able to run all these things efficiently. Can you tell us what it was like to develop those systems over just a couple of years, a relatively short time?
Yeah. Yep. So just like you said, absolutely. Like this, the world, good businesses run on good systems. You can have the best, most profitable business in the world. It's not sustainable. It's not scalable unless you have a good system. So what happened was we grew all the properties. We maxed out our portfolios with everything we owned. Ali had some long-term rentals. I had some long-term. We maxed them out, made them all STR. Where do we go from here, right? Do we buy more? What do we do? So we started buying more, and people were like, "Oh, I need you to manage my our property. Like, we heard this and this." So we already had the system that was working. We had the ideal system that was working for us. It was just a plug and play at that point, right? We have to make sure that this property aligns with our system. And obviously, everyone gets a couple of those stray dogs in, and that teaches us a big lesson that we probably shouldn't have taken this property. But at the end of the day, our trust was there, and they trusted us to do it. So we had to figure out a way to make sure that they made money, or people weren't going to trust us. So I hope that answered your question, but let me know if we should go with more detail.
Are all of your properties in Bayonne or in that area near northern New Jersey, New York City?
Yeah. So majority are. We have some in Jersey City, majority in Bayonne. We actually have one in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca. And we have, I'm also in Egypt now, setting up a few in Egypt as well.
It's interesting. We've heard so many people on this show who have properties in vacation destinations, which is where everyone seems to gravitate when you have a short-term rental property. The White Mountains, the Smoky Mountains, Joshua Tree, Florida, you name it,
Yeah.
the coast of California. But you're the first person we've spoken with that is running short-term rentals in a relatively urban environment, just outside New York City. What are the types of people that come stay in your properties like? Like, why are they traveling there?
So we have 2 to 3 main drivers. The first one is the regulation in New York City. That turned people into millionaires overnight, right? So on a map, Bayonne and Manhattan are probably like 3 to 4 miles away, right? But unrealistically, it's probably an hour on average, right? Maybe you take public transportation, it's 30 to 40 minutes with trains and stuff, depending on the traffic. It depends on where you're going in the city. So that is number one, main driver. Number two, there's, I think, if not the biggest, the second biggest cruise port is out of Bayonne. The Bayonne cruise lines, I forget the name of it, but there's a lot of people who stop there for cruises, and that's definitely like a hot spot. And they're also building a second cruise port. So we get a lot of people going on cruises, destination, people that come, they'll stay for a couple of days and stuff like that. And then we're also, as you know, you're from the area, we're very close to MetLife Stadium. We're very close to Prudential Center. We're very close to Yankee Stadium. People come in and just a cheaper option than staying in New York City.
That is fascinating. That's awesome because like you found a need, and if you're listening to this and unfamiliar with what's happening in New York City with regulations for Airbnb, they put some really strict draconian measures in place, and what happened was it drove down the supply dramatically, and hotel rates in New York City are as high as they've ever been. So people are looking for other alternatives. And yes, Bayonne, Jersey City, they're literally right across, the Hudson River. You could take the Lincoln Tunnel inside, you could take the PATH train right over. Did I get all that right? Do I remember the public transportation correctly?
Yeah, the PATH train's right there. There's a PATH train and there's the light rail.
Yeah, and it's a quick ride, going down to Lower Manhattan. You referenced MetLife Stadium. Unfortunately, the Giants and Jets are what they are these days, but people still attend the games despite planes flying over them saying to fire everybody. That's what happened yesterday. We're recording this in the end of the football season, and you've identified a need, and you found a lot of people that are traveling to the area, the biggest metropolitan area in the entire United States, and they can't even stay really in a short-term rental in Manhattan. A lot of people want to travel these ways, so like kudos to you for identifying that and finding that need. So you scaled this up pretty quickly. Like, so I'm guessing that technology played a role early on. Like, how much were you doing guest communication from the start, and how much were you immediately looking to like offload that to virtual assistants?
So it's a great question, right? So obviously, I don't recommend anybody with one listing to go do what I'm doing, because you need to learn it from the grassroots up for you to be able to teach it and for able to know what works for your system, right? You can't throw in like a hotel manager that has never done anything just because they manage a multi-unit property into an Airbnb system where they don't really understand the ins and outs of it, right? I say it again, like over and over again, the best Airbnb hosts and the best property managers are the ones who clean their own house from the beginning. Like they know everything, like from the first listing. And then as they grow, you offload it. That's how every business starts, right? So what happened is we started with, I believe, 2 properties, not listings, because each property was broken into listings. Ali's property and me and my brother's property. I was doing a lot of the tech stuff, accounting work. My brother was doing cleaning operations. Side note, we have a staffing agency. That was our main business. So staff and wasn't really a problem for us. We were able to get cleaners. We were able to get maintenance guys, like just services, like labor delivering stuff, because our bread and butter was labor, right? Ali was doing all the guest customer service stuff. So Ali is like he can talk to anybody. Like he raised, I think, over $100 million in capital for a lot of his colleagues. And he runs, I think, right currently a hedge fund that's probably, last time I heard of it, it was probably $200-300 million, but it's in crypto, and crypto's been booming. So I have no idea what it's worth now. I try not to talk too much crypto with him because I get upset at myself for not getting in as early as he did. So he was doing all the talking, maybe like anything has speaking, he was doing, which was doable. He was talking to the guests, making sure everything was okay and stuff like that. it got to the point where me, him, and my brother were all at the same place. I think we were shooting those. What are those things called that come up and you shoot them? Not like at a range, but like those.
Like skeet shooting?
Yeah, skeet shooting. We were there and we realized who's working. We're all here. No one's answering messages. We're getting messages. So I think at that point we decided to start outsourcing some stuff. I started checking Fiverr and stuff. That was my go-to early on. I found this ad that says, I will handle your Airbnb services. I'll do everything 24 hours a day. I was 24/7. Like, what is this? This is very good. Let me talk to this guy. He had no reviews, no nothing, zero. I was like, okay, what can I lose? He had broken English, not the best, horrible presentation. But for something like me and Ali had this gut feeling, like, let's try him out. Like, what do we have to lose? And it turned out to be one of the best decisions we had. He turned his family into a Airbnb machine for us. They take shifts, and it changed his life as much as it changed ours. They were able to move out of the community they're in, and they moved into a much better community. Everybody was employed. They loved it. They didn't have to go to work. They were working from home, something that they loved to do. They had no experience actually in Airbnb stuff. And from there, we realized that worked out for us from maybe one listing to 15-ish. Then we started to fall some issues. We needed more help, but we kind of had trouble accepting it. We didn't want to pay for more help. But then we realized the more we invest in us, the faster we grew. And it shows, because from 1 to 15, we grew with that team in Pakistan. And from 15 to 30, we're growing now with a team in the Philippines. And we're growing exponentially. So
let's talk about that a little bit. We actually haven't really talked too much about virtual assistants here on Smart Stay Show. And we too have virtual assistants for our business, and we're looking to add on as well, because we're kind of in a similar situation to where you were once you identify the fact that, you need some skilled help for people that can do this really, really well, and so you can focus on growing the business. So you mentioned the Philippines, and that's where we have a virtual assistant as well. And he actually is the producer of this podcast, does a fantastic job. His name is Dan. Dan's listening. What's up, Dan?
What's up, Dan?
What's up, Dan? So, all right. So tell us about why the Philippines is a hotbed for people with short-term rentals.
Yeah, no, exactly. You make a very good point. And something I always say is that you don't own an Airbnb property management company, or you don't run an Airbnb if you don't have a VA in the Philippines. It just, that's like the new thing, and the reason why it's a hotbed is not only are you finding like very, very skilled labor, the language issue is not there, right? So everywhere in the world, you might find like someone really good in India, someone really good somewhere in, some area in Asia or Southeast Asia, but they might have an area, like an issue, I guess, like communicating, right? But in the Philippines, they all know English. Some of them know English better than me, and not only do they know English, they love to work. They want to they have pride in what they do, right? If I tell them, hey, you need to do these 5 things, they'll do 6 things, right? As opposed to other people. Like people kind of don't like, they take pride in what they do and they love it. And I learn from them as much as they learn from me. And as long as you make their lives easier, you have the proper tools for them to succeed, the correct SOPs, the correct documents, the correct resources, the sky's the limit for them. I don't want to go too much off topic. I'm on a Toro Talk Facebook group, and I saw a post this morning. It was amazing. It was like, just got back from the Philippines with my team of 20 VA agents that grew my fleet from 1 to 250 cars. And it's a picture of the guy with 20 VAs from the Philippines. He went to go visit them, and it has a graph showing their growth. And, it's amazing what they can do.
You mentioned Turo. I know that you're involved with renting cars out as well, right? You have another business connected to that? Yeah.
Correct.
Yes. So any of these businesses that, we're operating here on the ground in the United States, sometimes like going offshore for some help is actually the best way to scale these businesses up. If you are a host and you have 1 or 2 properties, and you're doing this on the side, or you're doing it, out of a labor of love, that's great. You can keep doing that. But, if you're interested in taking on more co-hosting projects and taking on more properties, eventually you do reach a point where your phone is going off constantly. I mean, Rory and I just had this conversation over the weekend. Like, right now, our business Pride Away Stays, which serves properties in Provincetown, we've got Right now we have 11 properties under contract, and we have another 3 or 4 that maybe by the time this comes out will have signed with us. We own 5 ourselves. So I said to Rory this weekend, I'm like, there's going to be a time next summer that there's going to be 20 properties where humans are sleeping in them, right? And I don't necessarily want to be the one that's getting all those messages right that second.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're
Exactly.
quickly identifying the fact that like we definitely need a team of people to help, because it's better for customer support. We want to keep our guests happy. I'm sure that by having your team of VAs, you're able to serve your guests better, right?
Of course. And that goes back to something that I tell everybody. There's nothing more valuable in this world than your time, right? Where do you value your time, right? Even if you don't need the help, you can use it, right? It's better. It's better to invest in your time that you can use to think and make your product. We created this business, right? I created my business. You created your business. How did we create it? We had time to sit down and think, can this work? We had an analysis, right? We didn't create it by messaging people. We didn't create it by making listings and editing photos. We created it by thinking and brainstorming. And we need time to do that. We can't just do everything, right? We might think it's productive, but in reality, it's not, because we're not using our most valuable asset, which is our brain.
But I actually do want to kind of underline Islam's related counterpoint to that, though. But by doing some of this work yourself in the beginning, you're really gaining an understanding of what goes into it. So all those conversations, it may not be feasible to entertain 20 guests at the same time. But those years when we had 1 or 2 places and you could communicate with the guests, now you know what to put in the SOPs. Now you know what to look for in a good VA that can perform those tasks, and you can give good advice that'll set them up for success.
Yeah, that's an amazing point, and that's exactly correct. There's a sliding scale, right? You cannot VA and automate everything, and you cannot manually do everything, right? You need to find that balance point, and as you grow, you grow and delegate.
So part of why the Philippines is a hotbed for short-term rental virtual assistants is because Airbnb has a call center there, or they have teams of people that they've outsourced to where they're serving as their arm. And you and I were talking off camera about this. I want to pivot over to the tool that you're working with right now about removing reviews, or how that came about, and kind of some of your process for what you're doing right there. And then I definitely want to close and talk a little bit about your work as a fighter, because I'm sure that goes into everything that you're doing. But let's talk about this AI removal tool, or how you're working with people to really help identify the issues if somebody needs to get a review removed, and how to go about doing that, because it has become incredibly challenging these days to contest any type of review, even as a great host. We've been a super host 30 times. Our rating is a 4.95, and we get as much latitude as somebody that has much lower ratings, meaning none, when you're trying to talk to these call centers and trying to get reviews removed. So what did you learn when you started to build this tool, and why did you build it?
Of course, right? You make a very good point. So reviews is the backbone of your business, especially when it comes to Airbnb. So I found myself back, again and again, bending over backwards for guests, like someone that should have gotten a refund for one night because the heat wasn't working. We had to give them a refund for 2 weeks because they'll just leave a bad review, and it financially makes sense, because then it invests in our next bookings, right? But morally, it's not the right thing to do, but we can't control everyone's actions, right? So I decided, I was like, that's it. That's enough. I'm going to study the Airbnb guidelines. I'm going to figure out the policy. I'm going to combat this. I'm going to make sure that I'm protecting myself and all of this stuff. And as I did, I found myself that I'm not even an Airbnb host anymore. I'm just a review lawyer. I'm sitting there reading the guidelines. Oh, what new guideline did this, violate this? And it wasn't sustainable. It worked, right? I got one review taken down for every 10 that I tried. It was not a terrible idea, but it wasn't the best use of my time. So when, the emergence of AI came out, I started feeding it. I created an agent, a ChatGPT bot, where you can basically train it. Just like you train anybody, you feed it a knowledge-based PDF of what you wanted to know about each property, what you wanted to know about each, platform and whatnot. And we fed it thousands and thousands of real-life use cases of Airbnb reviews that got removed, and some that didn't get removed. And why they didn't get removed, the response from the rep, and why it did get removed, and the response from the rep. So at this point now, the bot has an understanding of what to look for. However, Airbnb will change its policy every week or few weeks or months, I don't know, and the bot will not be as accurate anymore because now it's looking for stuff that it shouldn't, or it's missing stuff that it should have had. So we decided to also integrate it with the Airbnb guidelines, and also integrate it with our everyday tools. So now the way it works, and also keep in mind, I built this for myself, and it became a tool by accident, right? People started asking for help, and then I tried to make it a little bit more user friendly because, in the back end, it doesn't look like, oh, click this button. There's a lot of script and stuff behind it. So currently, in its current form, what it does is it pulls any review that's under 5 stars, because even a 4 stars is terrible, right? So as soon as you get a review that's under 4 stars, the review data will get fed into this bot. It'll be like, hey, so-and-so left this, and this was his review. It'll take a look at it, and it'll dissect it. It'll see if it violates any policies or any guidelines. And if it doesn't, it'll say, hey, listen, I can't find anything. This is fine. Do you have any other information you can give me? Like chat logs, photos, or anything that's outside of what is shown to me that may help me build a case for you. And then you can continue providing it until you come up with something. And this is super important now because recently, Airbnb now, you don't get unlimited tries to remove a review. You only get twice. After the first time, it almost becomes impossible the second time as well. So after 2 times, you cannot even open up a case to remove the review. So you need to make sure that you get it right the first time, because if you don't, then you kind of close that door forever. And what the tool does is it spits out the best possible case, and it tells you why and how to do it and what you should say. And there's a lot more technical stuff that it does as well. But that's one of the main reasons I use it now.
We could probably go into individual horror stories of trying to get reviews removed.
Yeah.
The most recent one I could think of, and I haven't had a ton, frankly, but we did have one that eventually they removed, and the agent said that they removed it, and then suddenly it reappeared after a month, because I guess you might know this better than I, but I think that the person that submitted the review was notified the review is being taken down, and they contested that.
Correct.
And then they decided to side with the guest again, and then I had to go back and fight again and say, I thought this was settled. Like you physically written in the chat saying that we've removed it for the following reasons, and now it's back. And like they said, oh yeah, well they did that by mistake. So it is what it is. And we looked at it twice, and we're going to move on. And, I eventually talked to someone like in the US, like in California, about this, and they said there's nothing they could do. I was completely floored.
There's actually some stuff you can do if you want to reach out to me later, and I can try to help you remove that. But there's definitely some stuff. It's never over. That's one thing, a big thing that I lived with my life. Never say never. There's always a way. There's always a way. No matter what, there's always a way. Especially if you're doing the right thing and you're not trying to do anything, to hurt anybody, then there's always a way. Again, I think there was something that you mentioned. Let me think about it. It was very interesting to me. One sec. My thoughts just flew out of my head. If it comes back to me, I'll let you know.
Yeah. It'll. I can keep talking. You'll probably get it back. But what was surprising to me was like, I try to even appeal to the person in the U.S. and say, you physically written this down in the message thread saying that you're taking the review down, and that now it's back, and they didn't adhere to, like, if that was a mistake. Hey, we all make mistakes, but like adhere to the mistake, right? Like, oh, we screwed up, but like, for this time we're going to keep it down. Nope, they go right back to the policy. So, all right. So talk, is this tool live yet, or is this still in beta, or what? I'm on the website because you shared the beta version.
Yeah,
so I'm not sure how much we could say
deployed.
yet.
Yeah, you can whatever is on there, you can say it. I just need to. My problem now is getting it operating for an everyday user, right? Because it works for me and I can use it in my case. But for the everyday user, most homeowners are not young people, right? So they're not typically used to the tech. So I got to make it as easy as possible to use. But everything on there should be pretty accurate. I just got to get it operating.
So as of right now, it's called Review Pro Plus. Is that right?
Yeah, it's probably going to get changed to maybe Review Lawyers or something Airbnb-ish. I got to figure that out. But it removes reviews.
what we'll do, because you're listening to this probably super curious, like, well, how do I get access to this? So once it's ready to roll for people, we'll put a link in the show notes, even if that happens like well after the episode comes out. But it is fascinating to use a concept like AI, feed it reviews and the result of the review to be able to coach a host through what specific point you should mention in a policy that was violated to get a review taken down. Because what I'm familiar with is doing that, is saying, hey, listen, like, here's the policy as written on your website, policy 3.2 whatever, and this is what we're disputing that the guest is saying is wrong, and your policy is written as such. So it's like you kind of have to cite that specific thing for somebody on the Airbnb customer service team for you to have any kind of case. Does that sound about accurate?
No, you're absolutely right. And another thing you mentioned, another thing I wanted to mention too. So right now it's operating as is like this, and the next step in iteration once this is up is building an integration with our channel managers like HostAway and all this stuff to have the AI actually send in the message thread. Okay, boom. You do it. So instead of feeding it to you and then you feeding it to the agent, because now this is the worst part, right? If you don't get them on the phone, you have to wait for them to message you, right? You message back, somebody will be back to you and so. They reach back out to you. I'm not around. My guys are not around. Blah, blah, blah. A few hours go by. Oh, we're going to close this message if you don't answer us. And I'm trying to get the evidence together and all this photos, and my VAs can't do nothing without the evidence from the onshore team. And, and then they close it. Boom, it's over. Your one shot is gone, right? So that's not the best thing. So we're trying to build a system that will do it automatically. But my thought did come back to me. So when you were mentioning the host, the guest that left you a bad review or something, some hosts get really scared to leave, say a guest comes and damages something, and they're scared to request them for money or a damage claim because they think they're going to leave a bad review. And most of them do. But actually, it's very important that you do it right away, because then you can get them for retaliatory, right? So that's the biggest one that gets removed, is like if you can prove in any shape or form that it was retaliatory to the damage claim, then it gets removed. And I actually egg my guests on. I'm like, hey, okay, yep, tell me everything that was bothered by you in this review or in this message, because the more words, the better. Like the hardest ones to remove are 3 stars. Great, stay. Okay, stay. What can I work with? I got nothing, right? So if I know they're going to leave me a bad review, go ahead. I'm not going to refund you anything. Tell me everything. Please leave me the most detailed, worst review you can. And they're just digging their own grave, right? Because they're going to slip up in something. Oh, the guest wouldn't give me a late checkout, so I was annoyed. Plus, with the heat not working. Okay, heat wasn't working. I could refund you for that one day. But the late checkout, that's retaliatory. I didn't want to give it to you. So in turn, you leave me a bad review. Well, what is that, right? So there's ways to do it, and that's for the chat agent. But I want to make a quick note that for all the hosts out there, do your damage claims. Don't wait for the 13th day or last minute that it might get hurt. Don't be scared. It's okay to do them early. If anything, it's to our benefit.
You sound like Rory. Like Rory's an attorney, so he likes the less is more theory, and now I'm clearly the opposite of that, right, Rory?
No, I mean, the second somebody says something negative about you or anything, or says something, you want to immediately just pile on and say everything, and that's not always to your advantage. Sometimes you have to think about what is your end goal and how do I get there. So I'm learning something here from Islam that's very important with the negative reviews, and that is actually to kind of invite these opportunities for the guest to to hang themselves with their words and be able to overturn the review. So I've definitely learned something new there. I've also learned the threat, a really kind of specific instance where attorneys can be made obsolete with AI if the AI tool can actually come through, parse the rules, and come up with the best argument for you. That's going to either make our jobs a lot more efficient or sideline us altogether.
Well, listen, when you make a very good point, a very, very good point, but at the end of the day, you still need human interaction, right? You still need somebody to prompt the AI. Like prompting agents, it's a skill in itself, right? You can't just, hey, give me the formula to a pizza, right? What type of pizza do you want? How quick do you want to make it? What tools do you have at hand, right? How fast can I make this? You need to, prompt engineering, it's a skill in its own, right? So no matter how advanced AI gets, humans just have to keep up. We just have to keep up with it. That's all.
You touched upon one thing before I want to talk about your work as a fighter. And a lot of this is fighting, right? Like, we're all great hosts, but like sometimes like if we're provoked, I mean, we got to like punch back a little bit. Is damage claims. Like I've changed my mindset on damage claims. We do work with Wavo for many of our properties, so we actually have kind of damage protection through them. And that's not always a perfect process either, because sometimes they'll deny things. But, we've submitted a number of things through Airbnb recently, where guests clearly broke stuff. And I don't care. Like at first I was like, oh, they're going to give bad review. I'm not going to do this till the 13th day. But like instead I flipped my mindset on that. I said, you know what? This is my property. You damaged it. And I want the money. I don't care what you're going to say for a review. Like, I won't give you a review. Like, I'm kind of nice enough not to review you if you were a bad guest, super messy. I usually don't provoke that. I usually just kind of choose not to review the people. That's just like my mindset on that. Other people might disagree with that. But like, if there's actual physical damage claimed that I need to claim, like, I'm going to claim it immediately. And so be it. If you want to give a bad review, then I could do exactly what you're proposing, which is, you could say that, because of the damage claim, you're giving me a bad review, and you can probably get that taken down. But, you're going to break my lamp, like damage my sheets. Like, I want my money.
You're absolutely right. And you mentioned a very good point about damage claims and insurance and all this other stuff. And I think I'm going to give a free promo now because I've been using it. It's been working out for me. But have you guys heard of Safely yet? I've been using it. I met them at Hostcella. Yep. Yeah, and it's been working. Yeah,
we use Wavo. It's a very similar concept to Safely.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you think people can utilize both?
I think that the reason we're using Wavo is because Safely wasn't taking on new customers at the time when I reached out to them. I saw them at one of the conferences or something and reached back out. And they're like, oh yeah, we're kind of backlogged. I was like, well, then why did you present this conference? But I think that they're now back up taking customers again. But the process is very similar. You're basically, there's a specific amount of money you could add on to a guest stay, which covers 1,500, 3,000, whatever the number is going to be in potential damage that can happen. Yep. Then any damage that happen, instead of going through Airbnb or Verbo or in addition to it, you can go through Safely or Wavo by having that.
Yep. No, exactly right. And it's just additional coverage. And so far, it's been like I think less than 2-3 weeks that we've been on it, and it's been okay. It's been good.
So, as we come to close the episode, let's talk about your work as a fighter. Yep. You're a fighter and a grappler. Is it jiu-jitsu that you're doing?
Yeah. So I started off grappling, doing pure jiu-jitsu, and then I was always fascinated with MMA. And obviously, with MMA, you need some stand-up striking, kickboxing, boxing, Muay Thai, and whatnot. So I slowly started to transition to it, and now I primarily try to do more MMA. But it's like I have one foot in each door because I'm much better at jiu-jitsu than I am at MMA. But that being said, the barrier to entry to MMA is a lot harder. So even though I'm much better at jiu-jitsu, MMA is I'm just as competitive, right? Because there's less competition. The jiu-jitsu, most people just, anyone can just go try it and they get better. And as they go on, it's more longevity to it. So I have one foot in each door pulling me in each direction. Every time I'm about to excel here, then I get pulled this way. Then I come back, and with all the work and stuff going on, and my time is not really best allocated. But I met a lot of great people doing it, and it's actually been productive for me because it's a little bit stupid concept, but I feel like if I'm on a time crunch, everyone works a little bit better. So if I don't do jiu-jitsu or work out, then I have unlimited time because I wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning for prayer. And from 4 to 5 in the morning, I'm up until like 11. So I get about 5 to 6 hours of sleep, depending. 6 hours if it's really, really good. 4 to 5 on average day. So if I take out my training out of my day, that's like 6 hours because it's an hour and back of traveling, maybe 2 to 3 hours of training, a morning session, back session, whatever it is. And if I take that off, I have an additional 6 hours. I can build a whole nother company with 6 hours. But the reason I come home, I'm on a time crunch. So I have to do what I'm doing. There's no delay in things. But again, that's just a point of view. I might be wrong.
Do you think that your time training and working with, the fighting and grappling community allows you to be a better entrepreneur, and how so?
So I actually started my entrepreneurship and my fighting. It kind of started around the same time. So I definitely know that it's helping me. One or the other is helping each one of them. When I got out of college, I worked for a consulting company, and then I was working for J&J for a little bit, Johnson & Johnson. And then, I tore my ACL at a jiu-jitsu tournament right when I started getting good. And I told myself I'm going to quit my job so I can focus on grappling. I quit on Friday. Saturday, I tear my ACL. So now I have no job. I have no insurance for my ACL surgery. I don't have I don't have anything, but I have my computer and I can't move. So I figured out how to build systems from that area, and it was probably one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. It was a blessing in disguise, as most things actually are. If you look at the bigger picture, one bad thing or one terrible thing or a few terrible things don't really mean the end of the world. They could be the start of a new blessing. So that's what happened to me, and I'm confident that my grappling and fighting and my entrepreneur, they both have something to do with each other. Still trying to figure out what that is, but they definitely, it's in correlation. The better I get, the more successful I get. And I'm just climbing up that ladder together.
That's a pretty cool story. We're going to make sure to link your Instagram in this episode as well, because if you want to follow Islam's journey in his MMA work also, you can go there. You can also go to modernstateconsulting.com and learn more about you and your company and your partners and everything that you're up to. And once you get that app going, or the removal tool, whatever it's going to be, get back with us. We could add that to the show notes as well afterward. Thank you for your time today. This has been a really enlightening discussion. It's really cool to hear how you built the business, in the shadow of New York City as a result of what's happening in New York and the short-term rental regulations, and how it's led you down this road of, being the entrepreneur, building systems up, using people around the world, building some great stuff with technology. Rory, I think that we have to kind of improve some of our systems as well. So I want to go back and listen to the episode and see what we missed, right?
Yeah, thank you for coming on, and thank you for giving us some timely advice for what we're working on too. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. It's not every day I get to talk someone's ear off about Airbnb. People want to kill me over here. They hear me talk about it every day.
The funny thing about short-term rental people is that once we find each other, once you find someone else talking about short-term rentals, everyone talks to each other's ear off. If you came up our way, we'd probably have 12 hours of stuff to talk about. But this, sometimes you don't find each other in the wild, right? We find each other online, but you find the people in the wild, and you're like, wait, you're a short-term rental guy? You got an Airbnb? Hey, let me pick your brain about this thing. And next thing you know, it's a long conversation.
Yeah, the industry is so kind of new, bare, but yet it's not, because hotels have been around forever. So the variations of people's systems and stuff are crazy. It's all over the place.
Well, thank you again for appearing on the show. Thank you for listening to Smart Stay Show. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can go to smartstayshow.com. We'd love if you could like and subscribe to this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, we love your comments. And if you are listening to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave 5-star reviews. And thank you. Thank you so much, Islam. Thank you, Rory. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.